Perlas de la noche. Palabras con imagen. El análisis de los acontecimientos que influyen en nuestra vida con el periodista Francisco Durán Rosillo.
Frank Durán Rosillo te saluda y los saluda a todos ustedes, su amiga María Celeste Raraz, para invitarlos a que se suscriban a mi canal de YouTube, María Celeste Raraz, tal como mi nombre, donde les informo todas las semanas sobre entrevistas que tienen un tema que ayuda a mejorarnos como personas y de paso son interesantes. Las pueden encontrar en mi canal de YouTube, así que los espero. Y se suscriben gratis.
Pues parece que por más que le pregunten a la presidenta por las acciones ilícitas del ahora senador, exsecretario de Gobernación, exgobernador de Tabasco, Adán Augusto López, no da una respuesta de la principal responsable del país, la presidenta de la República. Claudia Sheinbaum no tiene que decir pregúntenle a él o que lo investiguen, no. Ella al final del día resume en su persona la responsabilidad jurídica de la jefa del Estado mexicano, porque juró respetar la Constitución y hacerla cumplir, o si no, que la nación se lo demande. Entonces, los periodistas que van a la mañanera, pues se quedan de a seis cuando escuchan esas respuestas. No hay nada congruente. No hay ninguna parte de su retórica que haga sentir que fue la verdadera presidenta electa democráticamente en México. Claudia Sheinbaum es una usurpadora. Claudia Sheinbaum llegó allí por el padrinazgo de Andrés Manuel López Obrador, a quien le interesaba tener bajo amenaza a alguien a modo que le protegiera todas las componendas y robos que hizo durante la administración junto con sus hijos. Andrés Manuel López Obrador ya es uno de los hombres más ricos del mundo, igual que Díaz-Canel, igual que Nicolás Maduro. Tienen sus dineros, bueno, no son sus dineros, tienen lo que se robaron en bancos offshore, o sea, en otros lugares, paraísos fiscales, en islas del Caribe, en Curazao, en Nassau no, porque pertenece a Estados Unidos, pero sí otras islas caribeñas, Panamá, etcétera, etcétera. Y los testaferros o prestanombres ganan millonadas solo por prestar su nombre y mantener allí el dinero de alguien. La gente de mi audiencia me dice, Frank, ¿cuándo va la DEA, el FBI y la CIA por Andrés Manuel López Obrador, sus hijos y el resto de los narcopolíticos? Quisiera yo saber esa respuesta, apreciados e inteligentes amigos de la audiencia, pero no la tengo. Lo que sí tengo es un mensaje que recibí en inglés que me dejó sorprendido. Después lo perdí, ya no lo pude recuperar, lo quería poner en pantalla, pero decía algo así de que los ataques contra los agentes de inmigración en los Estados Unidos están siendo potenciados por gente que no ve justicia de Estados Unidos en el mundo. O sea, a mi pobre entender, estas personas lo que tratan de decirme es que están frustrados porque el gobierno de Trump se va contra los que menos tienen, los más desfavorecidos, y los tratan básicamente como animales. Esas son las detenciones de algunos, no de todos. Y tratándose de Nicolás Maduro, de Miguel Díaz-Canel, de Andrés Manuel López Obrador, no actúan pese a que tienen los miles de soldados, el equipo militar para hacerlo, y cuyo resultado de esta acción pudiese ser el regresar la tranquilidad a miles de millones de ciudadanos en varios países. Al final del programa les voy a poner un video que yo no quise poner hace varios días porque mostraban allí a la gente del pueblo de Venezuela diciendo cómo defenderían a Maduro. Se les da un rifle y se les enseña a usarlo, cómo disparar, etcétera, etcétera. Y pues la verdad que para mí es hasta triste, porque son gente ya mayor de edad, gorditos, ya no ven bien, capaz de que le meten el plomazo al compañero de enfrente, cometiendo friendly fire. Le llaman friendly fire, fuego amigo, cuando uno de los mismos soldados del mismo equipo mata a su compañero o a su jefe. Pero aunque me ría y me disculpo, pues lo que pasó es que Donald Trump agarró ese video y lo reprodujo en su red social, y después cuestionando que si esa clase de personas iban a poder enfrentar al ejército más preparado y equipado en el mundo como lo es el US Army. Después el secretario de Defensa de Venezuela hizo una reclamación oficial diciendo que Donald Trump se estaba burlando de la gente buena de Venezuela que está arriesgando su vida por defender a su presidente y a su vicepresidente Maduro y Diosdado Cabello, respectivamente. Y bueno, el resto es historia. Lo que sí la gente me reclama es que tenga yo que decir a Donald Trump que ya estuvo bueno de estar esperando. Y pues lo voy a decir en inglés porque Donald Trump no entiende español y a lo mejor hasta le traducen el programa, vaya usted a saber. But with my broken accent, this dear Mr. President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, my audience is requesting your action from your promises from campaign and from the Oval Office made to stop dictators that are promoting the drug trafficking like Nicolás Maduro, Miguel Díaz-Canel, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, Daniel Ortega, and then tens of dictators sponsored by Vladimir Putin to smuggle illegally deadly drugs into the United States soil. Everybody in my audience is bringing under my attention that their patience is over And they question why you are not taking immediate action to bring Nicolas Maduro into the federal court, into the United States, so he has to pay the time, do his crime. The same way with the other dictators and their fellows who are helping them, like the particular case of Andrés Manuel López Obrador and his sons, who are the ones who are taking the money, not only from the Mexican projects, also from drug cartels, from smuggling, gasolines, diesel, and other products from US, and they pass faking the papers, telling that it's, cooking oil or other things to pay less taxes or to don't pay taxes, when in the reality, it is gasoline, diesel, gas, whatever. The patient of the Mexicans and Venezuelans is over. It's over because they were looking for your help. And now that you have the troops and you increase to 50 million, the reward for Nicolas Maduro, nothing is happening. Please, Mr. Trump, meet your promise. Meet your goals of make America great again, eliminating the drug smuggle and the drug deals in American soil, where at this time there are Americans dying for overdoses of that illegal drugs. With my highest respect, the audience of Charlas de la Noche, Palabras con Imagen, and me, Frank Duran Rosillo. And thank you. You know me because you answered me couple letters with a letter that you signed personally, and I still keep as a nice memory. Thank you, Mr. Trump. Remember, me and many of us vote for you 3 times, and we are expecting for answers, real answers. I understand that it's not easy when you have a bunch of leftists against you, doing blackmail against your administration, but they will keep doing. So jump over them and do it. There are more American families that will appreciate your actions on this matter. Have a great day. Amigos, pues le digo al presidente todo lo que ustedes me han pedido, que Trump no se quede dormido, que haga todo lo que prometió en campaña y que ha prometido desde que llegó a la oficina oval. Perdón. Entonces, creo yo que es cosa de remediar el problema con el mundo árabe, que ya los reunió en la oficina oval, para hacer que Hamas y Hezbollah detengan la guerra y entreguen lo que queda de los detenidos secuestrados de hace 2 años, del 7 de octubre. Reunió ya a los países en circunstancias difíciles por los aranceles y está llegando a acuerdos. Con el único país que no puede llegar a un acuerdo es con México, porque Claudia Sheinbaum o se hace la escurridiza, no fue a la Asamblea General de Naciones Unidas, la 80, que marca el 80 aniversario de esta institución. Muy interesante. Y Lilly aprovechó y hasta le sacó un crédito para reducir la inflación y mejorar la productividad. Lula da Silva se reunió con Trump y fijaron una reunión de Estado para remediar problemas. Todos, hasta Gustavo Petro está sacando provecho para su país. Pero todo parece que la señora ignorante Claudia Sheinbaum no quiere ayudar a México, a su país, al que dijo y juró prometer y hacer cumplir su constitución. No está haciendo nada, más bien está ayudando a López y al traidor Trevilla a acabarlo. Vean Sinaloa, que vamos a ir otra vez a revisar el problema. No hicieron nada, hicieron un carajo. Fueron con perdón de la expresión, fueron a cagarse y a burlarse de los sinaloenses. Pero eso se lo van a cobrar en las urnas. Porque Morena, en cada lugar donde ha fallado, va a tener un voto en contra. Jalisco, Sinaloa, Guerrero, Chiapas, Tamaulipas, Sonora. Bueno, olvídense, no acabaríamos de contar. Y la que quiere remediar su imagen, y vaya que me escuchó, porque fui el único que le dije que es una chango sin navajas, que no aporta soluciones, que ha desperdiciado su tiempo como senadora, es la Lilly Tellez. Ya se consiguió dar un discurso en el Heritage Foundation, que es una organización non-profit, una organización sin afán de lucro, que promete defender y respaldar la democracia y la paz de los países. Yo fui miembro de esa organización muchos años. Ya no lo soy porque pues ya no estoy básicamente muy activo en ciertas cosas, pero Lilly Tellez, espero y no les tome el pelo. Y voy a incluir aquí un párrafo de mi ronco pecho para los miembros, y le voy a copiar este programa a los miembros del Heritage Foundation. Dear board of members of the Heritage Foundation, Miss Lilly Tellez, who recently gave a nice speech in one of your briefings, representing her points of view as a Mexican senator, let me bring under your attention that this speech is the first time she does something serious. Because inside the Mexican Senate, she only yells to the rest of the senators with nicknames very inappropriate, but she never used the Mexican Constitution and the normativity of the Mexican constituency to bring under the attention of the rest of the senators to fix problems regarding the violence, corruption, drug cartels, stealing of oils and diesels, etc. She was nominated by the official party Morenas. She was chosen by the most corrupt president that Mexico ever had, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, called the narco president, because he's the one who is sponsoring drug cartels and empower them under his policy of hugs, no shots. But Lilly Tellez is only bluff. Lilly Tellez is not a real senator. She plays on the background a dirty game of the corrupt strategy of Morena. With all my respect to all the board members of the Heritage Foundation, that speech is empty. Why? Because has nothing of what Lilly Tellez does as senator. She is polemic because she put nicknames to all the senators. She yells them corrupt and that and blah, blah, blah. But on the paper, she never made a commission to review corrupt actions from the government. She never go and speak to her district and listen and put in paper their concerns. She doesn't do that. So recently I dedicate a broadcast to her, calling her under a Chilean proverb that people in Chile says that some ladies politicians are very dangerous because once they are in power, they see them like a monkeys with knives. And that is what Lilly Tellez is. She goes to US soil, give that nice speech with a very, very careful details, phrases to keep you happy. But ask for her background as senator. She does nothing. Once she back to Mexico, she is not following her main responsibility as senator of Mexico. So people of the Heritage Foundation, don't listen a monkey with knives like Lilly Tellez. Listen directly to the Mexican population. There are mothers desperately looking for their families and relatives, their sons, their husbands, their brothers who were born in a crematory ovens in the clandestinity of the rural areas in Mexico. They found that they make a big scandal just on the mass media. Everything resumed like a media circus, but it never been condensated in acts based on the Mexican law to prosecute the people responsible of these massive crimes. They buried more people than the Nazis in Nuremberg. They call searching moms, madres buscadoras. And somebody did a research and they are looking for more of 250,000 people disappear in Mexico and they have no trace. It's evident. They burn it, they bury the bones very deeply, and nobody does anything. It is worse than the Nuremberg files of the Nazis and happens across the US-Mexican border. And Lilly Tellez haven't mentioned what she does to fix as a senator such problem. So, Ms. Lilly Tellez, you are playing politics, but you are not respecting the Mexicans following the constitutionality of the Mexican state. Please don't play with the Heritage Foundation. Go back to the Senate and condemn and put on jail all those senators that you know they protect the drug cartels, and on bail the drug cartels leaders who are endorsing those crimes. You know them, but you never like to give a speech on that regard. For you, it's easier to make circus before to make the politicians respect the law. Thank you. I appreciate your understanding and have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. I put you Lilly Tellez video. Everything is going to be subtitled. Thank you. Have a good night.
Distinguished members of the Heritage Foundation, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, I extend my sincere gratitude to Kevin Roberts for the invitation to address this highly respected forum, one that is so important for the future of our shared values. I also wish to express my loving thanks to my son Leonardo for standing here by my side and in every step for the fight for Mexico. First of all, please accept my condolences for the great loss of Charlie Kirk. May he rest in peace and our Lord's perpetual light shine upon him. His work, I am sure, will continue to inspire people to look up for Jesus Christ. I stand before you deeply concerned about the trajectory of my country, Mexico, a nation of good people, a nation I love, and I have dedicated all my life to serving. First, as a television investigative journalist and anchorwoman who survived an assassination attempt for denouncing organized crime, cartels, and governmental corruption. And recently, just 7 years ago, as a senator, now attending my second term as conservative opposition. Today, Mexico is in danger, following step by step the Venezuelan path. The radical left regime threatens to undermine the very foundations of the partnership between our countries and jeopardize the stability of our shared region. For the last 3 decades, we believed Mexico was finally ready for genuine progress. As a democratic nation, we pursued market-based reforms and opened our economy to foreign investment. We were striving to build a republic where no one held absolute power. NAFTA was a culmination of these efforts. It was more than a trade deal, it was a symbol of a shared vision for an integrated and prosperous North America. But the dream of Mexico as a responsible partner in the free world began to fade under the radical left government of Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who began dismantling, undermining the rule of law and forging ties with cartels. He began dismantling democracy. Now we have a crisis that is not merely domestic, but a direct threat to the security of the entire hemisphere. The Latin American left gains power. Authoritarianism, statism, and collusion with cartels are unfolding with an alarming clarity in Mexico. The gradual but relentless erosion of liberty and the rule of law are transforming Mexico from a republic to a one-party regime that ruthlessly silences dissent destroys institutions and fundamental rights, and concentrates power in corrupt politicians who have jeopardized the justice system, turning it into a tool of political repression that targets not only political rivals, but journalists, activists, priests, and anyone who dares to speak truth to power or expose their ties to criminal organizations. This is not a matter of isolated incidents. President Claudia Sheinbaum leads an active and deliberate destruction of democratic institutions. She displaced, with an illegitimate majority of Congress, the most experienced and independent judges from the top of the Supreme Court to the lower courts, replacing them with loyalists and cronies appointed through fraudulent elections with appallingly low voter turnout. The result is a judiciary that is no longer impartial, objective, and committed to upholding the rule of law, but somewhat beholden to the ruling party, a puppet court to serve the president as an autocrat, not to serve the people. The new judiciary got into power violating the Constitution, just like it happened in Venezuela. Just like it. It is not an exaggeration to say that Mexico no longer possesses a genuinely independent judiciary. The situation may worsen in the months ahead. The president will pursue further reforms, including a deeply concerning electoral overhaul to increase government interference and make it far easier to commit fraud, ensuring her party's perpetual and ending fair and competitive elections. Morena Party is full woke ideology. It's illegal in Mexico to say that a man is a man even under women's clothes and makeup. If you say so, you get fined and kicked out of politics. Children are indoctrinated in the woke ideology, forcing them to study with the books published by the government. They have to learn about the left ideology as the best political and economical system. It is also prohibited to mention God in schools, in classrooms. You cannot mention the word God. This insidious rise of authoritarianism is linked to another troubling trend: the relentless and often reckless expansion of the state into all spheres of economical and social life. The government supports central planning, has a deep suspicion of free markets, and undermines private enterprise. Statism is at the core of the regime. The government has restricted private investment in key sectors such as energy, effectively taking industries under the state's control with its corrupt and inept bureaucrats. Perhaps the most alarming aspect of this statism is the growing role of the military in Mexico's economy. Rather than focusing on the urgent task of defending our nation from cartels, the military manage ports, airports, custom facilities, and other sectors like construction, transportation, and a wide array of commercial activities. And this brings me to the third and most alarming aspect of the new Morena regime: the alliance between the government and the cartels. A systematic and deliberate strategy to consolidate power through violence, intimidation, and the manipulation of the rule of law. Listen to this. Each day in Mexico, 10 women are assassinated each day in Mexico. This has been for years now. Mexican mothers mourn. Mexican mothers, we all live in fear throughout our country. And let me be crystal clear. The cartels are embedded in the political system, exercising enormous influence over elections, laws, and territory. Just 2 weeks ago, a major scandal was exposed involving 2 higher-ranked members of the Mexican Navy, nephews of the Navy Secretary. They were leading an international fuel smuggling and theft crime organization in collusion with a designated terrorist cartel. Moreover, the cartels actively participate in the elections. They have financed campaigns from the leftist ruling party, they have kidnapped opposition members, and in the 2024 election, 40 candidates were assassinated. 40 candidates. At least 4 governors are now facing credible accusations of collaborating with the cartels, and even the leader of Morena in the Senate is linked with a cartel. He sits just a few meters from me. In fact, López Obrador, presidential office chief, had a bank laundering money for a cartel to buy chemicals in China to produce fentanyl in Mexico, and Sheinbaum will not proceed against him. The lines between government and organized crime have blurred, and cartels operate with impunity and terror. In this increasingly blear landscape, there was one moment of clarity, a game changer that at least partially shifted the dynamics. The new policy from President Donald Trump toward Latin America. President Trump, unlike many others in Washington Biden's administration, recognized the gravity of the situation in Mexico and understood the dangers posed by the cartels, not only as the main culprits behind flooding the United States with fentanyl, but also as a destabilizing force threatening the security of the entire hemisphere. He took a bold and decisive step, designating the Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations. I have tried 3 times to pass a bill at the Senate to designate cartels as terrorists. 3 times, from years ago. But López Obrador and Claudia Sheinbaum ordered the Morena senators to vote against it. Why? Because they are narcopoliticians. Trump's decision sent a clear message to the Mexican establishment, exposing the complicity of members of the Mexican government and forcing the new administration to take at least some steps to combat cartels. This pressure from the United States had some results: the extradition of dozens of drug lords to the United States, and finally accepting the United States intelligence capabilities in Mexico to go after these organizations. It seems to be a great result, but far from it. These are just baby steps in such an enormous criminal context that's known as a narco state. I firmly believe that millions of Mexicans welcome and value the United States support in the fight against these narco-terrorists. Without this assistance, we would remain at the mercy of a Mexican government that already had turned its back on its own people. However, allow me to be somewhat skeptical. I do not think these measures will be enough to fundamentally halt Mexico's downward drift. The underlying problems, authoritarianism, statism, corruption, and collusion with cartels, remain deeply entrenched in Claudia Sheinbaum's regime. She is just the continuity of López Obrador. The López Obrador era is not finished yet. Claudia Sheinbaum is his puppet, and even more, she is happy to do as he says. The Mexican regime, despite making some concessions to the Trump administration, views these measures merely as temporary obstacles to its long-term goals, establishing an anti-democratic, anti-capitalist, radical left and pro-criminal regime right next door to the United States. This is why it's so crucial that in the incoming US-MCA negotiations, democracy and rule of law are incorporated as non-negotiable commitment from Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum must understand that being part of North America's economic community comes with the responsibility to permanently ensure hemispheric security, actively defend democracy, and promote a competitive capitalist system. We conservatives on both sides of the border must work together to ensure that our shared values are protected. The battle of the right in Mexico is as crucial as the one taking place in Europe and the United States. But the Mexican left is far more serious and dangerous. It holds real and great power. And politicians have an alliance with cartels. Just look at one state, just one state. There are many like this. Let's take Sinaloa, for example. The whole state is run by narcos, and López Obrador and Claudia Sheinbaum were really angry when the United States got its major drug lord, and they even said that the violence was provoked by the United States for capturing this drug lord. In reality, it's the other way around. The violence is provoked by the government of Morena, who don't capture the criminals and don't capture the big narco leaders and the narco politicians who protect them. Yet there is hope for Mexico. There is a resurgence of the right, not among the political elite who have historically proven cowardly and prefer to navigate the politically ambiguous center. The resurgence of the right is taking place among the new generations, in the generation of my son, in those young Catholics who are sick of professing their faith in silence, in the men who are tired of being humiliated by radical feminism, in the families who are concerned by the indoctrination of their children, in the entrepreneurs who perceive the attack against meritocracy as an existential threat, in the victims of the cartels who desperately cry out for order. We Mexicans are, at our core, people of family values, Christian faith, and of a meritocratic spirit. It is for these reasons that voices such as the ones from J.D. Vance, President Meloni, Isabel Díaz Ayuso, Javier Milei, and Bukele are beginning to create fissures within the dominant discourse of the left in my country. Yes, the Mexican right is listening and it's beginning to articulate itself. We have to stop Mexico from becoming the next Venezuela. Right now, Mexico is not a republic anymore. Just watch the destruction of the institutions, the absence of the rule of law, the statism. Just observe the help and the admiration that Morena promotes for Cuba and Venezuela. Under Morena, Mexico has become one of the most violent and corrupt countries in the world. I hope our countries can work together against crime at a major scale. I ask the United States government to let us know the names of the narcopoliticians. Our people should know at least who are identified by the United States authorities so we can organize social pressure over them. I can assure you there are many of us who are fighting for freedom, life, justice, for Republican institutions, for the rule of law. We are fighting for peace. We are in front of the radical left monster and their allies, the cartels. But under God's guidance, we won't step back. We are fighting for Mexico. Let this be known to our good American neighbors. May God bless our countries. Thank you.
Durán Rosillo te saluda y los saluda a todos ustedes, su amiga María Celeste Raraz, para invitarlos a que se suscriban a mi canal de YouTube, María Celeste Raraz, tal como mi nombre, donde les informo todas las semanas sobre entrevistas que tienen un tema que ayuda a mejorarnos como personas y de paso son interesantes. Las pueden encontrar en mi canal de YouTube, así que los espero. Y se suscriben gratis.
Escuchaste el análisis de la noticia, transparente como el agua, con el periodista Francisco Durán Rosillo.